exclusive interview. It's been nearly 10 years since O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, was viciously murdered at her home while her children slept upstairs. A young waiter and Good Samaritan named Ron Goldman was also murdered. 5 days after her murder on June 12, 1994, the world watched an unbelievable drama unfold. TV stations nationwide broke from the regular programming and turned to a white Bronco driving down the I-5 freeway in California. Inside the Bronco were O.J. Simpson and his friend Al Collins. O.J. was supposed to be turning himself in to police, but instead there was word O.J. had a gun to his head. As helicopters and police began a slow-speed chase, thousands of drivers stopped their cars and hordes of people raced to the freeway to cheer on O.J. The chase ended at O.J.'s house, where he surrendered. What transpired in the days after evolved into what was called the trial of the century, with O.J. eventually acquitted of their murders.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
The verdict divided us more than any other one in American history. At a second trial, a civil one in 1997, O.J. was found liable for both deaths. Today, O.J. lives in Miami, raising Sydney and Justin Simpson, his 2 children, from his marriage to Nicole. It's been more than 7 years since I last interviewed him. I sat down with O.J. recently. We agreed to air this interview straight and unedited, with his lawyer, Yale Galanter, sitting off camera. This interview is not intended to be a grilling cross-examination proving guilt or an endorsement of the not guilty verdict. This is simply O.J. Simpson in his own words 10 years later. O.J., how's life?
Pretty good. My golf game is in good shape. My daughter has chosen her college, and my son is happy with his extracurricular activities, and he's a top student in school. So, you know, my life tends to go by where my kids are. My kids are happy, I'm happy, and right now, this week anyway, they both seem to be pretty happy.
Your life down here in Florida is what? Give me an idea of how you spend your days.
Well, it has obviously changed over the last 4 years. A lot has to do with, you know, my kids, you know, their maturity, and my daughter becoming mobile 2 years ago has really freed me up a lot, because she can drive to school with my son. They go to the same school. It's the first time they ever went to the same school started about 2 years ago. So normally I try to let them see me or me see them in the morning before they go to school. They rarely eat, you know, so, but I'm just there and whatever's going on, because you find that when you have teenage kids, you have to catch those few moments. I used to have it when I drove them to and from school. Well, I don't drive them now. I pick my son up after school, but then I normally will probably go to the golf course and play golf with my buddies. We tend to have brunch or lunch after. If there's errands to run or shopping to do, I shop twice a week, and I do all the shopping, grocery shopping, a couple of days a week. Then I read, I write a lot, and normally I try to spend the late afternoons getting by my son's practice, watching him practice, and then I bring him home.
We see you write a lot. What are you writing?
Just my thoughts of things.
Are you writing a book?
My observations. Not really, I'm putting them down. You know, somebody told me once, put all your thoughts down. And I recall doing back in the early 90s, somebody gave me that advice, a lawyer gave me that advice, to put all your thoughts down. When you have thoughts about stuff, put them down. Sometimes I watch, I used to watch a lot of court TV. Then I stopped. And then from time to time, depending on what the cases are, you know, I will watch, and sometimes I make observations.
Why do you watch court TV? Why are you watching the legal
You know,
cases?
I realize now, it took me a long time to realize, I couldn't understand why people were so into my trial. Why it was on TV, and you know, I meet people, they say, I watched every minute of the trial. I had more people who taped the whole thing. You know how much tape that must have taken? And they'll say, if you need it, I got all the tapes. Anytime you need anything, I got it, right? And it used to, I was kind of befuddled by it. But then, I think it was the nanny trial or something, with the nanny up in Boston. I just recall when that case was going on, I was home a lot then. I wasn't really playing it. When I first came to Miami, I wasn't really playing golf. I don't recall whatever that transition was. My knee was bothering me too much. And I wasn't playing golf, so I was home a lot. And I don't watch soap operas. You know, most of the movies I've seen on TV. And I would find myself, you know, flipping over, and I watched this nanny trial. And it sort of, I found it very interesting, you know. it was curious watching the experts, and I always like to dog the so-called pundits, because most of the time they're wrong, and in that case they were totally wrong, you know. And I don't know. So from time to time, if there's a case that interests me, I'll follow a case.
What do you think of our justice system?
I think it works better in autonomy. I think once you put it out in the open, even though I sometimes am intrigued by it.
Meaning what? Putting it on
TV,
camera?
I think it changes everybody. I think it changes everybody. I think the media influences it far too much. Their opinions are far too, you know, I think the public who follow cases are swayed by the opinions of the various pundits who comment on it.
But isn't it the jurors who matter? Isn't it the jurors that matter, and does the camera affect the jurors?
So. I found out in my case that the only people who weren't affected by the media were the jurors, because they were totally sequestered. And unfortunately, most cases the jury aren't totally sequestered, and I know they're affected by public opinion, by neighborhood opinion, and you cannot protect them from if it's a high-profile case, you cannot protect them from being infected by somebody's opinion, somebody else's opinion. And if it's going to be a tough and unpopular decision, I think jurors are affected by it. If they're unaware of what's happening out there, sometimes I think you're going to get a true and honest vote, a decision. I think it affects other witnesses in cases more than anything else, because people go on, they're out in the public, they're afraid to, once they know they're being seen by the public, people get afraid, people change their opinions.
All right, let me ask you about a couple high-profile cases. Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant, what are your thoughts on those?
Well, I don't see how either one could be, with reasonable doubt or whatever, be convicted. You know,
you don't know how they could be
convicted. I just, at this point, can't see it. As far as I'm concerned, they're innocent until proven guilty. Nothing that I've heard has proven them guilty to me. Kobe's case, I think every high-profile and not high-profile athlete have found themselves in a situation like that before. I've certainly, in my life, have had girls come to the room and go back and come to the room and want to and say no or say whatever. And when I was a kid growing up, just about every girl said no once. You know, they had to, because you think they were a slut or something. But I just can't believe that this girl could continue to come to the room that way. From what I know from girls, even my oldest daughter, about Kobe, is he's a complete gentleman. You know, in situations like that, I don't know, in my opinion, date rape and stranger rape are two different things. You know, date
Do you
rape,
believe
you
there is
really
such a
got
thing?
to. I think at date rape, you really, all these shield laws and things that they have, you know, both persons' credibility is on the line. And to me, when you have a person who knows a person, it's got to be open. I mean, in the court of law, you got to be able to look at both persons' character completely in a situation like that. Plus, from what I understand how they did it, you know, any adult who's had any active sex life understands that you can't have sex that way without both parties helping out. It's impossible.
All right, Michael Jackson.
Well, Michael, you know, I've known Michael, not intimately, but I've known Michael for years, and I've seen how Michael cared about kids. I, along with Dustin Hoffman and Neil Diamond, David Soul, and years ago, Richard Chamberlain, about 5 of us, we started a thing called Camp Good Times for kids with cancer. And Michael put all his money from certain concerts towards it, and I've just seen over the years how Michael cared about kids. I always thought Michael was asexual, personally, you know, but I thought he was a guy that loved kids and sometimes affection. I kissed my son. Now, are you going to tell me that I haven't had my son, and even though Michael, if you listen to Michael, everybody says, oh, you say he sleeps with kids. Well, from one interview I saw, he says, well, you take the bed, I'll take the bed or something. But trust me, my son, when he was a kid, some of his friends stayed over. The boys would jump in bed with me, and we'd look at a movie, and they'd fall asleep, you know. I think Michael is just an affectionate guy towards kids, and I just have never seen that in him. I've just never seen that side of his personality that I would think would molest kids, and I know he cares about kids, and personally, I saw he came to my kids' aid when my trial ended, how he went out of his way to contact us to say, I know you can't get any privacy, but Neverland is open to you. And my kids and their friends and I, that was the only real sanctuary we probably had for a couple of years, where we can be outside running around yelling and screaming, because as you know, at Rockingham, you spent time at my house. Hey, the media was there, the cameras were coming over the wall, but Michael, you know, in Michael's case, I think the credibility of the parent, the mother, will probably set him free.
You talk about Rockingham. I mean, when I was there, we were there with 1 billion satellite trucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody was watching you. Everybody in the media was there. Is that still your life? Or are we still dogging you?
No, that has not been the case for a long time. I think the media only dogs me now when there's no news.
Up next, O.J. on an explosive new tabloid story.
Now with this 10-year thing, as I saw for the first time in quite a while, I was on the cover of one of the tabloids saying, O.J. confesses his daughter.
Back with our exclusive with O.J. Simpson. I asked him if he is still hounded by the media.
And of course now with this 10-year thing, as I saw for the first time in quite a while, I was on the cover of one of the tabloids saying, O.J. confesses his daughter says, hell no. Confess
what happened?
What?
What is the story on that National Enquirer article?
I didn't read it. I just, somebody told me it was in the market, and I went to a friend's house, and it was at his house. And, but all my friends,
what's the article say? That you confessed at a friend's house?
The cover.
Okay.
Oh, I try not to pay any attention to it.
Doesn't bother you?
It doesn't bother me, not anymore, no. I mean, anytime they try to inject my kids in the story, that bothers me somewhat. As a matter of fact, my daughter and I both spoke to Yale about her legal rights.
Yale's your lawyer.
Yale Glanter, my lawyer, about her legal rights, because you know sometimes she's upset that they try to say things about her. They kind of couch it in a way. Normally the cover never matches the story. You know, they kind of protect themselves in the story, but you know, in that story, I don't even know. But we decided that, hey, my daughter is still being educated. She's still going to school. Once she finishes college, we collect everything, and she then can make her own decision one day how she wants to handle it.
Does she know about, for instance, that National Enquirer article, that cover article where it says you confessed? Has she seen that and said anything to you?
No. I don't know if she's seen it, but her and I, other than her and I talking to Yale about these tabloids, you know, she'll say something like, and this is not the first time that she'll come to me and say, Dad, can I do something about, my friend said or something, and they said that they got me in a story saying something, right? And, but outside of that, you know, hey, be a kid, enjoy this time of your life, and you don't need to be in court with these people at this point.
So how tough has it been on your kids? Their mother has been dead now 10 years.
Well, you know, sometimes I think maybe I feel it more than maybe they express it. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just that sometimes when I feel at a loss to deal with a problem, even though intellectually I realize it's all emotion, and even if the mother was here, she couldn't deal with the problem, but I just feel from an emotional point of view that she could have been a lot more, you know, that rock of Gibraltar for him, or help him through an emotional
Give me an example.
You know, I don't want to really get into any of my kids' specific, my kids are so positive and they're so up and they've done so well that the few times that sometimes I feel that maybe they need a little more of a hug. I was never a guy, I was always affectionate with all my kids, but not to the degree that a mother is affectionate to all their kids. And I've had to really make myself, you know, go in a room when I think, even if I think it's silly, and sit down and just say, what's the matter, baby? Or say, it's all right. But from that, you know, even though I read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, I'm still a guy. I still try to solve the problem, and invariably when you try to solve the problem, you only make girls more emotional. You know what I mean? They just want you to listen, you know, but in that element, I think, you know, I wish and I wish, how do I say this? I wish I could have been, you know, some people remarry and stuff. You know, I made a decision that my kids would be first and that I would not bring another woman into their lives that way.
But you've had girlfriends. You've had girlfriends.
Yeah, but my girlfriends are my out-of-the-house life. Sometimes I wonder if that was a mistake. So sometimes I wonder if maybe if I should have brought another girl in the house, but I still feel I did the right thing based on the type of kids I have right now. At this point in their lives, they're both just terrific kids. But sometimes I wonder if maybe I made a mistake by saying I'm not bringing any other woman into my life to that degree.
How about their aunts, Nicole's sisters? Have they been able to sort of fulfill some sort of special role to the kids?
Well, despite what I hear on TV, they rarely, I mean, my kids, they go out, I send them to California to see Judy and Lou.
The grandparents.
The grandparents, the week after Christmas, and whatever time the kids want to spend there during the summer. Sydney spends very little time there. I mean, she goes to California, but she'd rather be in L.A. with her friends, and she spends some time in Laguna, but normally she spends very, very little time in Laguna, and she spends most of her summer either traveling or with her L.A. friends. Justin spends a little more time down in Laguna because he has two cousins, guys who are roughly his age, that are there, but as each year goes by, they want to spend less and less time there. So I don't think to any effect, but let's put it this way, if my kids got a problem, I've never known them to pick up the phone and call their aunts. They have picked up the phone and called Shirley, but of course, you know, Shirley is my sister, Shirley Baker. Shirley has come to Miami and spend substantial time, like every 2 or 3 months. She comes down and spends, 7, 10, 2 weeks, over and over quite often. Plus, I think sometimes when they disagree with me, not Justin. Justin is like most boys. Whatever he says is gone, and then he's playing video games or he's on his computer or he's out of his mind. Sometimes with women, girls, things stick with them a little more. So I think my daughters sometimes feel that the only person that has authority over me is my sister. So sometimes she'll sick my sister on me.
Up next, O.J. talks about Nicole's sister, Denise Brown, Marcia Clark, and Fred Goldman, and others who say he got away with 2 murders. Back with our exclusive interview with O.J. Simpson. I asked him about Nicole's sister Denise, who makes her contempt for O.J. no secret. Does Denise have any relationship, Denise Brown, with Sidney or with Justin?
Other than when they go out there seeing them, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it anyway. I know she was in Miami once and took them to dinner. We've been here for 4 years, but I don't. That's just not a knock on Denise. It's just that hey, my kids don't have no real active relationship with my other sister, Carmelita. I mean, when they see her, everybody gets along, and I'm sure when they see Denise, they must get along. But I'm pretty sure you can probably count on your fingers the time they see Denise in a year. And it's, hey, Denise got her life. She got her kid in her life.
We say Denise got her life. I mean, recently she's gotten on television and she has gone after Marcia Clark, saying Marcia Clark failed to convict you. And she's very angry.
It's 10 years. Everybody's getting another 5 minutes. And I'm sure the income is down on the foundation that she works for, which I would imagine makes her income go down. Just an interesting opportunity here with the media, with everybody's interested in doing a story on the 10 years, and I'm sure I'm gonna see Cato, I'm sure I'm gonna see everybody whose success, financial, call it success or whatever, since the trial has been directly related to the trial. You understand what I'm saying? So the people who have benefited, not Marcia. Marcia got a big contract, so I think everybody will accept that financially she got the biggest, payment on it. But for the people who were actively involved in it, and certainly relatives, I don't think anyone's bills have been paid more than Denise's from what came from the trial. You call it good, you call it bad. I make no judgment on it. I have no feeling towards it one way or the other at this point in my life. But hey, they got another 5 minutes, they got another opportunity, and they're taking advantage of it. Good luck to them.
You mentioned Marcia Clark. What are your thoughts about Marcia Clark?
I never think of Marcia Clark.
Never think about her at all?
Never think about her at all.
Don't see her on TV from time to time?
Rarely. I was surprised because, people like Marcia and Fred Goldman got such opportunity from this. And they all attempted, people signed them the contracts, and, well, it just wasn't suited, I guess. Maybe their talents or whatever wasn't suited to benefit from it, sadly enough. But I know they tried. I saw Marcia one day. The only thing that jumps to mind about Marcia since my trial was the nanny trial. I saw her, they asked her about it, and she said that, darn well that if this nanny was, she didn't agree with the verdict or something, what people were saying, and she said, darn well if she was black, she would be convicted right away, right? So I'm sitting there at home saying, now race wasn't even an issue in the nanny case, and Marcia just played the race card, and she said exactly what was pretty much a theme once we saw the racial animus of a Mark Furman, that she was saying exactly what we were saying, that race does matter in these situations, and I found that really surprising that to hear her say that on TV when race wasn't even an issue in the nanny trial.
Do you wonder what, for instance, Christopher Darden is doing these days?
Not at all.
Not at all?
I don't care what it is. I don't wonder. I don't think about it. When I played ball and I finished playing ball, the one thing I wanted was never to be introduced as an ex-football player. And I think I succeeded. OJ was this and that, and he used to play football. As I try to teach my kids, don't look back.
But when they say O.J. Simpson, they think trial of the century, and a huge population is mad out there about the verdict, and you know that.
Yeah, I know that. I know the media, members of the media are. I know that for sure. But you've been in the streets with me. Yell Glant, my lawyer, she's in the room here. He's been in the streets with me. There's very few people. When the guy from NBC was talking to me at the Kentucky Derby, he made a comment. He said, maybe certainly one of the most popular people here. I guarantee you, with all the celebrities that was there, nobody signed more autographs and took more pictures than I did at the Kentucky Derby, or wherever I go, for that matter. That's what I see. That's my reality. My reality is that as I'm taking pictures and people say, hey, you hanging there, man, how the kids doing? Man, don't worry about this. My reality isn't, oh yeah, but there may be a guy over sitting on across the room that thinks I got away with murder. I'm sorry, I don't work that way. That's whatever he's thinking over there is his problem.
What do you think that when people come up to you, and they come up to you, a lot of people come up to you often, what percentage of them do you think he got away with murder?
I can't even say because I don't think about it.
Does anyone say? No one ever says anything to you at all.
Occasionally, I'll get a person that'll yell something, and gee, one poor guy. This is about the 4th time it's happened, especially in Miami. Miami is pretty tough town in some areas. When they support somebody, when the Latins support somebody, they support them, right? But I've had at least on 4 occasions, I would say, mostly, I think most of them once might have been in a nightclub where somebody made a comment to me, and you damn near had to get the bouncers to keep the guy from getting beat up from the other people around, not people that were with me.
So they protect you here in Miami?
Yeah. Not only Miami, everywhere. Everywhere I go, people are very supportive and protective. It seemed to be, to me, very supportive and protective.
Can you travel at all without people recognizing you?
No. And I think I probably travel because I don't work now. So I don't travel for business. I probably travel as much as any American, and I go everywhere, and it's terrific.
Up next, O.J. takes us inside the trial of the century and reveals how cameras in court helped him.
It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Tonight, a rare, unedited, and exclusive interview with O.J. Simpson. It's now 10 years since his ex-wife Nicole and Ron Goldman were savagely murdered. I sat down with Simpson recently, who was acquitted of both murders. Since then, he's left California to raise his 2 children, Sydney and Justin. O.J., this is the 10-year anniversary. How are you going to spend June 12th?
Well, see, I don't look at the anniversary. I regret the fact that we even have to know that this is the anniversary. I have no idea what day my mother died. I have no idea what day my baby died. Well, I kind of know that because it was football and I was at a game, and I couldn't tell you the date my dad died. I truly don't really mark those sad occasions.
But doesn't in some ways diminish it?
Let me just finish. I did a few days ago. Just a few days ago, I did have my kids at dinner at a Benihana type place and said, okay, we got a toast. This would have been your mother's 45th birthday, you know? And we had a little toast for their mother's 45th birthday, right? But those occasions I try to mark. The other occasions, you know, it's not that I want to remember them. I happen to be, we have my kids and I have a trip planned, and it's only coincidental. And hopefully we will not be in the country that week, only because of this 10th year. In the past, I don't think we've made any provisions one way or the other for that date. This year just may be coincidental that both are out of school, and we're going to take our family vacation that we normally take. And more than likely we'll be not in the U.S.
Are you surprised, I mean, the 10 years that we're at that point? Has time gone very quickly for you, or is it dragged?
You know, in some respects, it's been real fast, and in some respects, because of the media's fascination or a need to interject anything about my case into whatever the latest case is, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. You know?
Do you hate the media?
No, I don't. I think the media, at this point in America, that what's going to hurt our forefathers, I think, never foresaw cable TV. They never saw, well, they did, because I used to always do the quote of Thomas Jefferson about, you know, one who doesn't listen to the media is better informed than one who does, and that one who hasn't heard the lies and inaccuracies. Right? So Thomas Jefferson was hip to the media way back then. But I just think right now the media is hurting our legal system. I really did. They're affecting the legal system too much, and I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. And I think that it's time for the media to be reined in a little bit. You know, I was a big fan of, I think, Caroline Kennedy's book about the media, criticizing the media. And I can't recall the name of the book right now, but I just think the media has a little too much leeway. I love, every time I hear about Canada and a little bit of England, how they, when it comes to a trial, how they treat the media, how the media is restricted from really doing a lot of things.
It's funny you say that. Some people say that cameras is the reason why you weren't convicted.
Well, I think cameras, the one thing I can say the cameras did for me, still don't make me, you know, even though in one area the camera benefited me. The main area that the camera benefited me was so many women called immediately during one of the hearings when they saw Mark Fuhrman to tell the DA first. The DA would listen, and then people like Kathleen Bell and these ladies who didn't know me from Adam's house cat. As a matter of fact, I think Kathleen had said she thought I was guilty. But they felt the need to report to the DA's office about his racial animus. And eventually they end up calling us, and it were things that I would say to my lawyers about specific things, and they just didn't add up, just didn't make sense. And then once we started looking in that area, they started making sense.
Up next, O.J. Simpson, 10 years later, is there anything he would have done differently if given the chance?
I don't mean to make light of this, but a couple of my buddies always say, man, you should have kept your butt in New York, you know, that weekend. But hey, look, I regret that I was unfaithful to 2 wives.
On the Record continues next.
Back with more of our rare, unedited, and exclusive interview with O.J. Simpson. Do you have, looking back over your life, and I realize you're still a reasonably young man, what are your regrets?
I can easily say, I don't mean to make light of this, but a couple of my buddies always say, man, you should have kept your butt in New York, you know, that weekend. But hey, look, I regret that I was unfaithful to 2 wives. Not that I went out to be unfaithful, but I think I had affairs, and I didn't have a lot of them, but I certainly had a couple of affairs on both my wives. I think I regret that most of all. When I look at my personal, when I have to take personal inventory of myself, Then outside of that, I think my regrets are no different than what most people's regrets are. You know, I wish I'd have paid more attention to this or than that, and I was about it. But in the last 4 years, I've said, not for, well, more the last 6 years than the whole 10 years, is I kind of, and I have an excellent relationship with my 2 older kids, but I kind of regret that I didn't get with them or experience some of the things with them that I experienced with Sydney and Justin. I was too busy. It certainly hasn't hurt my relationship with them, but I feel like I lost out.
You mentioned your unfaithfulness. Nicole Brown Simpson was unfaithful to you.
So she wasn't married to me. I don't recall. I didn't find out, well, Denise had told me something when Nicole approached me to get back together. And I was questioning, why you want to get back together? I haven't even seen you, you know? And I talked to her best friend, Cora. I talked to her close friend, Cora's husband, Dr. Fishman. He felt that he needed to let me know that I needed to know all things, you know, Marcus Allen, for instance. But I wasn't married to her. And they do what they wanted to do. It was immaterial to me because I wasn't interested in getting back at that time. Denise let me know that probably right before we split the first time that with her hairdresser, she probably had a little thing. Because when I called Judy to ask her, why does Nicole want to get back together? And, you know, Denise got on the phone and we talked a little bit and she said that to me.
Let me just say,
outside of that, I never, whatever she did when we were trying to get back together, we went back together. I would not let her move back in. And to me, unless a girl lives in your house with you and you're paying her bills, she's free to do whatever the hell she wants to do.
you mentioned Marcus Allen. Something that I've always been curious about is that he had an affair with Nicole when you were not married. You forgave him, and then he had his wedding at your house.
Yes.
And then during your trial, your lawyers attempted to subpoena him to come testify in your behalf.
Yeah.
Marcus wouldn't do it. Why
He
not?
lied about it, and he let his lawyer, Hookstrand, say that we made it up. You know, I don't hold any animus. You know, as I said, Marcus.
Did you talk to Marcus?
You got to understand. No, we haven't talked. But you got to understand, this happened years before her death. This happened 2.5 years before her death.
But it was during her trial. He wouldn't come back.
But I had dealt with it, with that element of it, when it was Nicole that told me. And then he came and apologized and said, well, you know, and my only thing to him was, you're getting married, man. You know why, you know. But, and I couldn't understand why she wanted me to know this. But you know, her answer, I accepted. But in any event, what bothers me more than even Marcus and Ed Hookstranton being dishonest about it is, I realize now, during my custody case, when some therapy notes that the prosecution had, Nicole talks about it extensively in these therapy notes. So they knew he was lying. You know? So that pisses me off. That Marsha Clark and Dart, and all of them knew Marcus was lying and did nothing about it, because Nicole wrote about it extensively in these therapy notes.
And he was a good friend of yours,
yeah.
Very close friend of yours.
This is where I may be a little stupid. I still consider Marcus family. Have
you spoken to him in 10 years?
Oh, in 10 years, I think right away at one point, but not in recent years at all. No, I don't recall talking to him at all. I mean, I've had messages. Somebody says, "Oh, Marcus loves you." He says, I talked to his wife his ex-wife a few times, and it was, you know, Marcus feel bad about you, but you know, what are you gonna do? I can't change it. You know, I felt that he lost a good friend in me. I still care about him. I hope only the best things for him. But hey, once again, what happened with him and her, I wasn't married to her. What happened, we dealt with at the time. It was over immediately. When they came and told me, I didn't have any feelings about it one way or the other. I thought it was wrong because he was getting married, ready to marry a terrific girl. And I knew it would hurt her. Matter of fact, in Nicole's therapy notes, her anger towards me is that I only seem to care about Catherine's feelings. And, hey, well, you know, Catherine was a victim, I felt, not what they did, they had to live with.
Up next, O.J. Simpson on why he sometimes finds himself angry at Nicole. Plus, O.J. reveals what he thinks about Kato Kaelin and what never came out at the trial. Exclusive with O.J. Simpson. Do you think of Nicole at all anymore?
Yeah, I thought about it the other day when it was her birthday, obviously. Yeah, from time to time, and there's times I'm angry at her. You know,
Why?
Times because when I feel that there's things that she could be doing with the kids better than I, you know, if it's an emotional stuff, especially with my daughter, I'm angry with her. I'm angry that sometimes that she found herself hanging around with people that anybody that knew her close friends who are still close friends of mine, her real close friends who was part of her life for 10 years leading up to this, Cora, Susie Keel, that she found herself hanging out with this group of, who are these people? And it pisses me off every time I see the media say, oh, Cato, Kalen, these guys are friends. I don't know these people. And Cato will admit, he and I weren't friends. We didn't hang out together, you know. I don't know these people. I could count on my fingers the time I've seen Faye Rusnick. This is a group of nomads, I guess, that Nicole started hanging out with after we were divorced. And her mother didn't like them. I had no, you know, hang out who you want to hang out with. Unfortunately, that year we were back together, I was out of town more than I was in town. I lived in New York half the year. I went to Cabo. I was building a house in Cabo, and I was in Miami. And when I came to town, these were the people that she was with.
What was wrong with Cato? I mean,
Cato's all right guy. I've never had a bad thing to say about
he lived in your
Cato.
house, and no problem. We lived there, right?
No, he lived in a
the guest house, right?
You see, in L.A., people rent out these places. But I didn't rent them out. Occasionally, I had people
But he wasn't
there.
a bad guy in the sense he wasn't a bad influence.
I have no problem with Cato. You know, let me tell you about Cato. Here's one thing that pisses me off also that didn't come out in all of this. Nicole's worst enemy in the 6 months before her death was Cato.
Why?
She hated him. He couldn't be at the house if she came over. She gave notes to the kids to tell them to get the hell out of the house.
What was wrong with Cato?
I don't know. You ask Cato. Ask Cato this.
I mean, you let him in your house. You let him. I mean, he was in your house.
He was not in my house. He
in
was
the guest house on the
I had
property.
3 or 4 of them in the back. But she, for whatever reason, hated Cato at that point. And Cato knew. And Cato, the few times I would see him, said, why does she hate me so much? I said, Cato, don't worry about it. You know, she's got a problem. That's her problem. How's your house hunting coming? Oh, I think I found a place. And then I'm out of town for a month, right? So I just tried not to get involved in it. This was a friend of hers. I did a favor when she was moving. He could use the house in the back until he finds a place. And just took him a little extra long, I get, to find a place. But see, I was never around. And Cato will tell you that I didn't see much of him at all. And he will also tell you that Nicole was just livid after a while that he was there and called him names, cursed him, sent him horrible notes. And I said, look, man, don't worry about her. Just, you know, you can stay there until you find a place. I told you that. I gave you my word. Find a place, move, but just don't worry about her. She doesn't live here. She doesn't own this house. Right. So that never came out, and that's really, you know, it comes out that, oh, they were good friends right up to her death. That's absolute BS. The person that she was having her, and it was no fault of Cato's. It was just that she was pissed at him.
Up next, O.J. Simpson on Nicole Brown's parents, the grandparents of his 2 youngest children. Is there bad blood?
I may be not totally right. I know they're totally wrong about their feelings about me. If they feel I killed Nicole, they're wrong. I didn't.
Back now with our exclusive interview with O.J. Simpson. Today he has sole custody of his 2 children, Sydney and Justin, after a bitter battle with Nicole's parents. Nicole's parents, your children's grandparents, convinced that you killed Nicole Brown Simpson. Has your relationship changed with them over 10 years? I mean, how do they look at you now?
What's funny is Judy and I spoke often. And up until probably 6 months ago, spoke real often. If the kids had a game, we attended the game together. We sat together. We had no problems doing this. Judy and I, as I said, talked extensively because sometimes I needed advice. Just a week ago, I needed some advice, and I called Judy. And we talked, and and in the course of the conversation, we laughed about some things. It's not that we love each other or anything, but I've had really no problem with Judy.
They've never said anything to you like in a fit of rage, you know, you killed my daughter, none of that?
We had an early on when we were still in the midst of the custody things, we sometimes had some arguments. And then I think Judy sometimes, Lou is not quite as emotional as Judy. And Judy had said some things. Once in a while she may have said something and I'll say something, and then, but we both apologized for being rude to each other the next time we talked, and we moved on. So I would say in the last 7 or 8 years, we've never had any kind of conversation like that. You know, all our conversation has been basically, and as I say, quite extensively with Judy and I, but Judy and I was ones that spoke a lot even before about Nicole when we were concerned about her. What's about the kids? So we kind of seem to have been able to put, because, you know, everybody thinks, oh, they feel this way. Wait a minute, hold it. You know, Judy and Lou, for their credit, didn't get involved in the criminal trial.
But they fought you tooth and nail.
They saw their daughter lie on the stand, right? And then Judy got on the stand in the civil trial and was dishonest, but she got, you know, they exposed her dishonesty because she had done an interview with not Barbara Walters, but the other lady, whatever her name is. So we showed her that interview. This is not what you said back then, right? So I'm pissed. I would say, look, I have every reason to be pissed at them, trying to take my life and liberty. But as I've tried to tell my kids over the years, you got to let things go. If you have hatred in your heart, you know, my kids have problems with people. I said, you got to let it go. Look at me. If I'm able to talk to your mother, your grandmother and grandfather, I'm able to sit with them and have no problem. You know, and to their credit, they're able to sit with me for you guys' sake. Sometimes in life, you got to put things aside and move on, your differences. You know, I may be not totally right. I know they're totally wrong about their feelings about me. If they feel I killed Nicole, they're wrong. I didn't. But at the same time, they tried to assist and stood by and watched people lie that they knew were lying during my trial, to my various trials, even the custody trial.
Tune in for part 2 of our exclusive with O.J. Simpson tomorrow. He sounds off on every major player involved in his infamous trial. Plus, is there a reality TV show in the works?
Everybody's coming to me for different things, right? And I've been offered so much. But first and foremost, I didn't...
10 years since O.J. Simpson's wife, Nicole Brown, and a good Samaritan named Ron Goldman were brutally murdered outside Nicole's home as her 2 young children slept inside. Here's part 2 of our exclusive interview with O.J. Simpson. I never met Nicole. Describe her to me.
Capable. Very, very, very capable. Probably as bright as any girl I've ever dated. Because she's European, you know, born in Europe, and I guess the flair with her mother, traditional woman, more so than a lot of Americans with the livers and all of that. Nicole was very, for a man, she was a great girl to have, you know. You could fight and she'd still cook your dinner, you know what I mean? So whatever those traditional values that women bring to a relationship, she didn't let her emotions affect those. Sometimes she had a problem that at times we always felt she had to be mad at somebody. And Judy and I would often say, well, at least it's not us this week. So that side of her we all have some side of there. But all in all, great mother. The person that the media reports, that the tabloids, and even one of her sisters selling photos to the tabloids, that was not the Nicole we all knew. Her best friends, Cora Fishman, Susie Keogh, we've often talked since the trial about Nicole was those last few months with a person like Faye Rusnick. This was a person that she wouldn't have given the time of day to in all the years we knew her. How these people got in her life, we have no idea. We have no idea. And as shocked as I was after the trial, actually not after the trial, the day of the recital, to find out that Nicole was doing drugs with Faye that week when they put her in rehab. And, you know, 2 of the people that were at the intervention, you know, talked about what took place there. I mean, I'm shocked to this day that that was not the Nicole that I knew. But the Nicole that I knew was a great mom and a terrific woman.
There has been some discussion in the media that you might have a reality TV show. Is there any truth to that?
Well, you know, everybody's coming to me for different things, right? And I've been offered so much. But First and foremost, I didn't commit these crimes. I always say I didn't commit the crime.
The murder.
They ain't gonna get a dime, right? If it means that I have to turn money over to everybody, you know what? My daughter's going to college. My son, I'll attend his games and see to it that he continues to be the honor student and a good citizen that he is, and I'll go play golf. So
what about this reality TV show? Is it true or not?
And
what is it? What's the idea?
Well, I've been approached with numerous things.
But what's the one that's floated up the top?
Something is takeoff of something called Punk.
Which is?
A show that's on one of.
I know what that is, but what would be your takeoff?
I know it's me doing gags as juicing, what they call juicing people.
Any interest in doing this?
Yeah.
Give me the odds. Is this going to happen? 1 to 10, 10 it's going to happen, 1 it's not.
7 or 8 that is going to happen. Yeah, only because the people who may be doing it, I've already arranged to where quality have a right to work, and then I say, you pay me, I spend the money, it's gone, it's already been done, so I don't have to worry about it.
When we come back, O.J. reveals his thoughts on key players from the trial, including Mark Furman, plus he tells an incredible story involving Marcia Clark and what he claims she told Johnny Cochran about her underwear. You don't want to miss the final part of this exclusive, unedited interview. Back with our exclusive interview with O.J. Simpson, I asked him about the key players from his criminal trial. Let me throw out some names and give me your first thought on these people. Yeah. Judge Ito.
A man who compromised his integrity, and he's getting beat up for it now. No good, as far as the prosecution is concerned, no good deed goes unpunished. He did everything he could to help those guys, and they're dogging him now. And he's got what he deserved.
Mark Furman.
Sad. A victim, I think, of wherever he was raised, a racist. I don't know if he's a racist today, but he was definitely a racist back then.
Johnny Cochran.
A Christian man. When I think of Johnny, everybody thinks it's because of the trial. I think of Johnny's faith more than anything, because that's why I first knew him in church, and I know that he's ruled and controlled by his faith.
Marcia Clark.
I don't think of Marcia. I didn't think she was a nice person. I don't think away from a courtroom anybody would like her too much. I just thought she was just not a real nice person. I was in the course when she told Johnny she wasn't wearing any panties, right? And that's, to me, it was typifies Marcia Clark.
Chris Darden.
I don't even think of Chris Darden. I don't. At the time, I thought he was a punk. I thought he was used. But to be honest, I don't really give Christopher Darden much thought. Any thought, for that matter.
Philip Van Adder, detective.
Crook.
His partner, Lang.
I thought Lang had some integrity. I mean, for a long time, I thought Lang would be my salvation, even since the trial. But, once you write a book together and you make an income from it, I think he compromised himself. I have much worse, if I had to have feelings with Van Adder than I do with Lang. As a matter of fact, when the verdict was read, my biggest issue, as I had already told all my lawyers, be no celebrating, I wanted to go after Van Adder. He was in the courtroom on the end, and it was just it took everything I could not to go after this guy, because I felt he was responsible for allowing somebody like Mark Furman to be as out of control as he evidently was during the investigation of this case.
All right, I got one last question.
Yeah.
One word. What's the word to describe you? How do you describe yourself?
Content.
Thanks, O.J.
Thank you, Greta.
Tomorrow night, former LAPD Detective Tom Lang reacts to O.J. Simpson's comments 10 years later. Be sure to tune in Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern.